in 2025, where we have like ChatGPTs or DeepSeek AI models which can write a code in just a second, do you really think that coding is really required as a DevOps engineer? And this is one of the most common doubts for the beginners, because 90% of the beginners thinks that for DevOps coding is not required. If you have these kind of questions, you are in the right place, because I'm going to tell you the current market demands and my current DevOps interview experience. So please watch till the end, because this video will be very informative, and do subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon so that you will get a lot of notification whenever I'm uploading a new videos. Before starting this video, I would like to explain the difference between programming and the coding. So this is very important to understand, and if you're able to understand the difference between programming and the coding, you will able to understand how we are different, how the DevOps engineers are different from the developers. For example, I'm writing a Ansible playbooks, or maybe I'm writing a Terraform files, or maybe I'm writing a Kubernetes manifest files. Do you really think that this is a programming languages? Well, the answer is no, but still I'm writing a code. So the coding and the programming is a little bit different, but the coding is a part of programming. It's a subset of programming, but it is not 100% the programming languages. Well, as a DevOps engineer, you will deal with the infra level of code, right? Infrastructure of the code, or maybe you will deal with writing a scripts for automating your task, but you will not deal with the actual programming which is required to develop any applications or any web application or maybe some tools. You will not able to deal with that. So coding means it's a lines of code that can be used to achieve any task that you want to do, the automations or whatever you want to do. And in the other hand, where we have like a programmers or developers who are mainly focused on development side, that's why they known as the developers, and they are actually developing the application from the scratch with their logical minds, and they use different languages to build the front end, back end, and they're also building up the databases services, and they're using a lot of concepts, like they are using math concepts for building up, they are using logical thinking, data sets and algorithms. That's all they needed as a developers, but for DevOps engineer it is not required. The one thing you need to understand, the coding is required for a DevOps, but it is not required a deep level of knowledge about the programming languages. So now you will have some idea like how DevOps engineers are different from the developers, and you need to know about how to write a code, and also should know about how to analyze the code, but you don't have to need to learn about the deep level of the programming languages. Nowadays even we have like a AI tools like a DeepSeek AI or maybe ChatGPT. So we know that we can just put the prompt and it can be able to write a code in just a 1 second or 2 seconds, right? And do you really think that we even require a write to code? We can also use a ChatGPT or maybe AI tools, right? Do you think that we need it? The answer is yes, because you cannot say in interview that I wrote this code with the help of AI. Then they will reject. But you have to learn about the basic programming languages, concepts, and also need to understand how to analyze the code and how to test the code. Now you may ask which programming language we need to learn as a DevOps engineer. Well, when I started as a DevOps engineer, I started with the shell scripting because I had some background with the system administrator, and before that I also have some experience with the front end developer. So I had some kind of prior experience, but if you are a beginner, you can start with the shell scripting because it is easy to learn. But if you have more time, like you can spend more time on yourself for learning, then I would definitely go with the Python, because Python is easy to learn and easy to understand also, and you can do a lot of scripting. It can be used for scripting, it can also used for developing the applications. So you can do a lot of things, and it supports a lot of libraries also. Now, if you already know some Python and you already have some basic knowledge about the programming languages, now you're thinking that I need to learn something else, you can learn Go language. At the end, I would like to discuss about my recent DevOps interview. So it was 4 round, and my first round was assessment. Uh, that was an online assessment. There, almost like started with the basic understanding about Linux, containers, and Kubernetes related questions, and all of them are the scenario based questions, and that was an online test. I was able to crack it. There was no coding round at that moment, and I was thinking this is good for me. And but the second round, it was a remote interview. There was a two people, one was a manager and another one is a team leader. And they started with the Python actually. So they read my resume and they ask me, "You have some experience with any programming language?" I say, "Yes, I have with the shell scripting and Python, and I'm currently learning a Go language also." So they started asking me related to the Python related questions. So started with the object oriented programming language, like what is object oriented programming language, and they then asking me about, do you able to create a simple script that can automate the backup system? If you can, you can write a code. So at that sudden, then they jump to the next question. So that was, I was lucky that, because I have to share my screen, but then they ask me about, do you know about any libraries that you have currently working in a Python? So I say yes, I was using a Boto 3 for like a programmatically calling the AWS resources, and I also use Flex Django for developing the Python based application. Also I use the Dash apps. Then they just ask me, can you write a simple code that can interact with the AWS services, like creating a EC2 instances and S3 buckets? So they ask me, you can share the screen and you can write a simple code, and we can just review it. So they gave me 5 minutes, and I was able to write that code because I already had created one project for that. So I had some kind of background like how to do that. So that was a good. Then they jump to the Kubernetes related questions. So they know ask me, did you have some experience with the Kubernetes, which in a previous company, how you are using a Kubernetes for that? So I say that we are using Kubernetes on bare metals. And then they ask me, do you know about some other core concept about Kubernetes? And that was a simple question. Then they simply say, we are fine, we will tell you with the on email about the result. So then the third round was again happened. So I was thinking that this is clear. So that technical manager only and with the HR. So technical manager did not ask a lot of questions, but she asked me about the Terraform related questions in general way, not very in a deep way, but she just asked me whatever I mentioned in the resume. So she asked me about the Terraforms, and she also asked me about the CI/CD workflow that my current, I mean, the previous company is using it. And then they just say, okay, we will let you know whenever we select it. Then we will let you know on an email. So now I am waiting for them to get some response. But the interview was very good, and there I realized that even if we are using AIs for writing a code, but still programming languages is required for a DevOps engineer. So the conclusion is, you should know about the basic concept and how to write a simple code and able to analyze the code, but you don't have to go in a very deep knowledge like how to do a data algorithms, set data sets and algorithms, how to do math and algorithms. So you don't have to go with that. No one will ask in the interview, but you should know about the basic concepts and how to write it. And even not only the programming languages concept and coding, even you writing a manifest files or like a Terraform code, right, infrastructure of a codes, that also consider as a coding. I mean, you are still writing a code that for the infrastructure as a code, right? So coding, you cannot be escape from that. If you are choosing DevOps, you should have to learn how to write a code and how to adopt new technology. So that's all for today, and if this video is useful, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, and see you in the next video. Thank you.